What do we like here? It's really a neat boat. Pretty spectacular in a lot of ways. It's great thinking. Hi there, this is Captain Q. Join us as we travel hither and yon to show you some great deals on some really interesting boats and maybe learn just a little bit with each one.
Hey, Captain!
Yeah, Randy, I hear you.
Where are you?
Hold on, buddy. I'm just polishing up here a little bit.
Now, this is a slightly different vehicle. What are you doing here?
So I thought we deserved something a little fancier to get around in. What do you think about this?
It's nice and shiny.
Oh, it's very shiny. We like shiny things, don't we? I tell you, it doesn't float very well, but it just sort of floats down the highway, you know. No, what we're here today to see is a rare beast in some ways, because we've heard of the C&C Yacht Company, right? Sure. And they were made most famous by one of their earliest boats, a boat called Red Jacket, and she was really sparkling. And she came out in the mid-'60s somewhere, started winning races, won the SORC one year, 1968, I think, won her class in '67. And it was just a remarkable boat. But one of its keys to her success was the fact that C&C was one of the first companies to use balsa coring in their hull and thus save on a lot of extra weight down there. Prior to that, the builders were just loading up the resin, heavy resin, liquid, along with the cloth and the mat, and they were heavy boats. So they came up with that and they lightened the boat up considerably. But then C&C stayed in the racing business, and they just built all their boats. One was just faster than the next one. And then the 70s came along, and the market started to slow down, and they realized that people wanted a little bit of something else. They wanted to go cruising. And so they came up with a series called the Landfall series, a 38-foot C&C Landfall in Elliott, Maine. This boat has been put away for the winter, and she's just starting to open up, so it's going to be a little jammed with cushions below. It's really a neat boat to see, and pretty spectacular in a lot of ways. What do we like here?
Oh, nice navy hull.
What do we like that?
Navy hull, gold cove stripe.
Oh yeah, that's really beautiful. And you know what? That is the original gel coat right there. I think the boot top's been painted, but that, I'm nigh on to positive that is the original gel coat. And it's just beautiful. It's nice to have little things to recognize boats by. And this little sword up here, we've seen that before, haven't we?
We sure have, yeah. That
was a C&C Ford we saw down in Mattapoisett. She has some rub marks along her hull here, and
yeah, will those buff right out, or?
I think they might. I think they look pretty surface laden, and I can't imagine, it looks like it's rubbed along something maybe when they got hauled out at one point. They took this hull, which was a racing hull originally. There was actually the C&C 38-2, and they said, let's make this our cruising boat. So they took the same hull. Why throw this hull away? It's a good hull. But they want to get you in places a little shallower than you might normally go. So they gave it just 5 foot of draft. And you know, when the designer drew this boat up, he said, gee, I'm so used to drawing deep, fast, speedy keels, I just can't give it a full-length keel. So he did go down probably a little lower than a lot of the newer so-called shoal draft boats are. Fortunately, right here beside it, we have a C&C 38 from the racing boards. And this will give you an idea of the difference. First of all, look at the height of the keel. This is almost 7 feet. It's actually, I think it lists out at 6 feet 8 inches. And look at the keel configuration. She's about another foot or so deeper, a foot and a half deeper, and it's much narrower, see? This is a more of a high-speed foil. And over here on our boat today, that's what they've ended up with. We see a little difference in the rudders. This is what they refer to as moving internally, because they've moved the rudder up underneath the load water line here. And this is all an internal arrangement here. And this is nicely fared in, so you're going to get a nice movement of the water coming right off the hull here. Now, we'll turn around and look at the one on the other side here, on the racing version of a boat that's actually just a foot shorter. And you see, this is all outside of the bustle and so forth. And so it's a little further back, and probably a little less squirrely going downwind. So give it more surface area and give it a better water feed. This is a very deep rudder now. This is going to be nice and deep for you, combined with this long, stable keel. just a standard 2-blade. I think there was a sale on zinc somewhere the other day because they're super zinced. And
more is always better, right?
well, I don't think you can do too many zincs. I don't know. I haven't read that yet.
Do you think so?
I think so. I think you're right. That nice little pin here. What do you think that's for?
That's a little seaweed catcher.
You got it. Yep. Just a little something to keep stuff from flowing right up here and just becoming permanently moved into your
Have you ever had that happen, like a lobster chain?
Oh, you know darn well we did. We dragged a lobster inside his pot around the whole race course in Casco Bay one race. We never got going very fast. We were always about a knot shy of what we should be doing. And then finally at the end of the race, you or somebody went over the side and they hauled up the line that was underwater. We couldn't see that we were dragging something. And we had caught a lobster pot on our rudder. And all I could picture is this poor lobster inside this trap bouncing over the bottom of Casco Bay, kind of like, oh, help. Like you've been put into your dryer, you know, at home.
Machine, yeah.
But anyway, we cut him loose, and I don't think we ate him. So we went for sale that day.
So I see one little thing here.
One little thing.
One little thing. A couple hairline cracks right about where the stub is.
Well, they're not really cracks. What you're seeing is just a natural appearance of this boat is built with a stub. This is actually a stub that's molded to the hull, and then the lead is attached and bolted to the stub. Now the reason they do that is it's a great idea for a cruising boat especially, because it means that you now have a deep sump-like bilge in the boat. Any water, all these boats with these flat bilges will collect water in them, and then that tends to roll up into lockers. But here, any water that gets in here will now sit down in this deep sump, and there'll be a bilge pump in here. And the bilge pump will suck it right out, and you'll have a nice dry cabin. So this is nice, and I like that. That's not a crack. It's just a natural place where the paint and so forth has separated out of the crack. There's nothing, I don't want to call it a crack, along the area of connection. That does not indicate to me that there's any problem at all. But I'm not a surveyor, and they may say, oh, that's the very first sign, but I don't think so. So what do you think?
So
you like the boat?
Yeah, I do. It's really pretty.
Do you think this boat's shiny enough? It's pretty shiny, isn't it? Look at that. You can see the boat next door right in that reflection. That's great.
It's about that time?
It's that time. Let's head north. Come on over, buddy.
Oh, thanks.
Guess where I am?
Familiar place.
No surprise, huh?
Like a moth to the flame.
Like a moth to the flame. Oh my gosh, poor moths. We've got a nice, compact split cockpit, a nice big wheel here with all the leverage you need for that spade rudder we've seen earlier. Underneath this elevated seat, which is designed to give the helmsman view right over the cabin top, is a box that contains 2 propane tanks. They're all sealed like we like to see. I'm not going to open up because it's all bolted and shut. We have instrumentation right beside us here, Ray Marine, and a host of Brooks and Gatehouse instruments over the companionway as well. So the helmsman's going to be able to see everything he needs. If you look closely here, you'll see a gray unit right here underneath this radar. Actually, it's on top of the radar. And that is a gimbaled unit as the boat heels. And this unit, if you're on the boat right here, and this goes up on the backstay and hangs off the backstay. And as the boat heels, that whole piece will stay parallel to the horizon. So no matter which way the boat heels, your radar will always be parallel to the horizon.
Is that motorized?
What's that? No, it's not motorized at all. It's just a gravity thing in there. Not unlike a gimbal table or a gimbal stove.
Yep.
Same sort of idea. Basically gimbal. Got some nice big old Variant winches here, 2-speed winches, self-tailing. And that's nice because it's handy to the helmsman as well as being handy to anybody in the cockpit. Here we have our ubiquitous bilge pump. Handle here, again, something for the helmsman to do while he's sailing along. Just stick the handle right in there. And the handle actually goes into this piece right here, and it's used to leverage it open. And then you put the handle right inside there to the pump itself. We have the ladder, boarding ladder, and this is very nice. Now, the transom on this boat is not raked like some of the counters, the transoms on some of the new race boats. It's a little straighter, so this is going to go flop right down. And then we have a table here that it's been taken apart for the winter. The nice finish on it, and this is going to bolt right into these 2 pins here. You know, all the winter stuff, all the bumpers, everything are put away here, stored. I can see power cords. It looks like a life jacket bag, and it says life jackets. So that's handy. This is a very handy thing to find on a boat. It's a very short ladder. This is for when you're in a dock. Usually the boat, the height of the side of the boat is just a little too much for most people just to step off a dock and get into the boat. So you hang this down, and all you need is just one extra little step to come on board. So it's nice to see this, almost homemade. Nice job though, I'd like to have one of those. Everything's neatly put away in separate bags. This boat was put away properly, and it's so nice to see that. And it's dry, nothing's wet, no moisture in there. I did peek, there's a little storage in there, but there's not that much storage. What do you think?
Probably a quarter berth under there.
There might be a quarter or even a half berth under there. Who knows? We'll find out, but that's a pretty good indicator.
2/3 berth?
2/3 berth. You'll see a series of tracks in the deck. And again, they're to trim your Genoa inside the lifelines right here. So your Genoa will come down, your big Genoa will trim to this car here, and it'll be on that 7-degree line. There's another one here for probably a blade jib, a much smaller jib. It's almost in line with the mast, so that's going to be like 100% jib maybe. These are the chain plates for your shrouds. Right in front of me. You see that? You know what that's for?
Probably a whisker pole, spinnaker pole.
Right, exactly. This would be a spinnaker pole, and the reason I say that, look at the length, the distance to the one up here.
It's a big boy.
Spinnaker poles are designed to be the same length as the J dimension on a boat. Now the J dimension is the distance from the front of the mast to the bow of the boat. And I'd love to see spinnaker poles anymore, because that means you might be flying a real spinnaker, not some of these new goofy downwind reaching sails they have.
There's nothing wrong with those. They're easier to handle.
Well, they can be, but they're not as cool. Anyway,
That's true. That's
here
true.
we are at the bow. We've got a nice windlass here for the chain with a proper size chain for the cat down here underneath. Up in Maine, a lot of people, like myself, are happy just using rope as the main anchor line.
Why is that?
Because when you're hanging off on a hook with the with nylon line, the 3-strand nylon line, that line will stretch with the weight of the boat, but it won't break. And the chain just comes up short. There's no stretch to this at all. It's like boom. So when the boat on a anchor gets a big wave, it'll pull back, and when the chain snaps tight, it'll knock the drink off the table in the galley. When the nylon line pulls tight, it's just a nice soft ooh kind of thing, and your drink's going to stay on the table. Now there are places where you may not want to use 3-strand because there might be a lot of sharp rocks and so forth, but you don't just use the 3-strand. You start out with anywhere from 15 to 30 feet of chain. So that what that does is when you set the anchor, the weight of the chain will help keep the shank of the chain down here, the long part of the chain down there. That'll keep it down flat so that the chain runs straight before it starts to curve up the catenary up to the boat. If you went down to the islands on a coral or something like that, you'd probably want to live with a lot of chain and maybe a couple of backup nylon anchor rods. We've got a couple grab rails right here. I can see you bracing yourself against one of those as you're hoisting the spinnaker pole on the front of this mast. You need someplace just to keep your feet. You don't need your whole body, but to have your foot solidly locked onto those pieces right here like so. You know, if you're on one tack or the other, you're going to place to brace yourself and do your work. It's great thinking. The mast is stepped on the keel, okay? This is not stepped up here, but there's a whole crown of eyelets here to take up blocks that are going to fair lead lines back to various winches here. There's stopper lines in the cockpit you can see after me here. Traveler set up here really rugged, and they've moved the Traveler out of the cockpit, so every time you tack or jibe, the cockpit people don't have to jump. So it just makes it that much more comfortable cruising.
How about we go down below?
Oh, okay, we can do that.
All right.
I just got a little comfy down here. Come on down, check this out. Oh boy.
Oh, wow.
I can't believe we have a little cabin back here.
It's right here.
We're on a 38-footer with a cabin. and I have this very large quarter berth, and I might move this shelf a little bit just to give me a little more room back there. I did that with a PB.
I'll just come all the way down here.
Okay.
Because I see a little feature here that it's kind of fun.
Okay, well, that's it, because, I'm getting a little hungry right now.
Well, that's perfect.
And I wonder if you could just hand me a plate of something. Oh, hello.
Whoa. Hey. Captain, how do you like your eggs?
I like my eggs cracked and boiled, huh? How's that? That sound like a good idea?
This is pretty cool.
Is that cool or what?
Yeah.
And Sea Dog would like something too.
You want fries with that?
Fries with my eggs? No, but you don't happen to have any anymore, do you?
No, I don't think so.
We'll have to look. Anyway, so we got to pass through here to the main saloon, and on the other side of this little aft cabin is a wonderful chart table area. And they got a little stool here that swings out, and this will lock in place. I've now worked myself into the nav station here, and boy, you couldn't be closer to the helmsman if you were sitting beside him, and I sort of am. Anyway, we've got instrumentation here. I've got a Raytheon radar, and you can swing that right out to the helm. I like being able to utilize these instruments below because this is where it's nice and dry and quiet.
Some WD-40 on that protractor.
Yes, it's a little squeaky. And then you've got this board. Fits perfectly and gives it a nice angle to it instead of having to work downwards.
And you could take that to the cockpit too, right?
You could take the whole board, pick it up, and carry it right up to the cockpit. We have the 12 volt and 110 volt panels here for shore power, and all the 12 volt circuit breakers. Very convenient. It's close to the hatch. I'd much rather not have it. I'd rather have it over on this side of the boat, but this looks pretty well protected, and I would say after being around for 36 years, 37 years, it's worked out pretty well just like this. We found the engine back here. Now they've had to make some concessions here to give you the best cruising boat they could. In this case, they've reversed the engine and put it on a V drive, which is a red piece you see coming off the back of the transmission there. There are some good sturdy motor mounts with just some minor surface rust on them, nothing to be concerned about at all. As a matter of fact, coat of paint and they look like new. But you can service the V drive right here, and you can get to the expansion tank to be able to top off the water in the engine if she gets a little low. And there's a hot water heater just over to on the starboard side there. And it has a little surface rust on it, but that's nothing to be concerned about. But all in all, the bilge underneath the engine is squeaky clean, and
I can see some batteries maybe under here.
Yes, well, there are. The battery banks actually live right underneath here, and it looks like they've got a number of 6-volt batteries in series.
So any concern about the access here? Because this isn't quite as accessible as some others.
Yeah, it's there's been comments on that with this design since the boat came out. It's not as handy as it could be. There is a hatch a little further aft, and
oh yeah,
you will see once you get in there that it's tricky, and it's been suggested that once you own this boat, you find out where all the oil fills and the water fills and everything live, and then you are just religious about dealing with them, because you will have to look at them at least once a week, check things out, and then know that all is good with your engine. Just something to be aware of. Look at all the counter space here we have. Now, what do we find here? A little drinks locker, and there's room down here to put some bottles of your favorite rum. So you can be the bartender deluxe at this bar. And on the other side, I like this. You know what we like here? What do we like?
Double sinks, close to midship.
Double deep
Double deep sinks.
We call that a DDS. Double deep sinks. We're going to have lots of initials one of these days. Sort of home style type wand for your water, single lever control. Nice cutting board fits right in the middle there, and that's handy. Cut up your limes and so forth there. A pretty good icebox refrigeration system, and there'll be area there to freeze and do whatever you want. This is kind of unusual. You know what that is?
No.
It's an ice cube tray. And the reason they're built like this is that you're going to put the water in the top here, fill it up, and then you take that and it just sits right up beside the big holding plate down here. And it will stand up vertically down there, you see.
Yep.
Water doesn't spill out no matter how much the boat heels, and then when it's time to pop it, you run a little bit of water over the outside of it, comes right out, and it works very well. A very nice folding. We kind of like that folding aspect. A lot of time we have to figure out how to stash this cover for the 3-burner stove and oven that we're going to learn how to bake bread in one of these days. Somebody will send us a recipe how to bake bread. And behind here, we've got cup storage and, you know, everything you need there. And over here, well,
Oh, wow.
this man is a serious cruiser. See, this is a Denny Moore boat, and that's because he's really cruising a lot. Okay, that proves that. Now this giant room is our head. And I will just latch that quickly there. Now, let's take a look. I don't need to go in there with you, but this is a really nicely done head with molded in sink area here, a nice teak trim piece around the edge, lots of storage and lockers. And over to your left is the shower. It's really good size. And I'm just going to show you what you can do with a Captain Q in here. Ooh, there's a little spiky floor mat in here that I wasn't quite ready for. And I think it's the mat upside down. I'm really hurting my feet right now. I have about 80 spikes going through the bottom of my feet. It is snug, but I'm a big guy here. There's just one cabinet after another on this boat. Everything is dry stored up here. There's no moisture, there's no drips, there's nothing. But it is torn apart. Normally you would have this nice double fold-up table, double leaf table there, would be sitting like so. So we'll ask our viewers to use their imagination for a table. Here's where the mast is going to come right down through here and sit right over that keel bolt there. And so actually it's kind of nice because it really won't be right in the middle of the table. Most of the people will be able to still see each other across the way. And there's an L-shaped settee. And the settees themselves, you can see, are wide enough. They're probably 25 inches wide. So for a good midship sea berth, they'll be terrific. The teak and Holly sole is handsome and clean, neat and tidy. We have 2 long ports on either side. They're sealed, but we have ventilation overhead and 2 ventilations over you back there, 2 hatches. And then forward, we have a very nice V-berth arrangement with a very large hatch forward. It's going to fill the room with a lot of air. It's going to be a very comfortable spot to sleep. Nobody will suffer on this cruiser.
I think I might like to see how comfortable that bunk is.
Oh gosh, Randy. There's a little table here on the wall, but is that a table? What do we think that is?
Oh, it's a step for
That's a step to get you up and out of here. Yeah. I'm going to roll into bed. We're getting better at this, aren't we?
Someone is.
Look at that. I'm filling up one side of it, but there's a lot of me. So either somebody my size identical over here, or somebody much smaller would be much happier. And someday, look at this. This is what I call a pillow. Thank you. Okay. There. Now, I'm looking at a nice molded liner here on the overhead. It's tight and dry. No sign of leakage. Very nice forepeak.
Seems like it might be time for your siesta.
I've been waiting for that.
All right.
Oh.
Good night.
Good night. What a nice surprise. C&C is noted for racing boats historically, and then as we said earlier, as the economy softened on them, they had to look around to come up with something new, and so they said, let's take these hulls that we've been building and adjust the keels and some of the steering and so forth, and let's plush them up a little bit and make them into cruising boats. And by gosh, it worked out for them. This 38 is really a nice little gem. And you know how I like aft cabins in aft cockpit boats? Well, this isn't the biggest aft cabin, but there's a nice little navigator's cabin with a huge quarter berth. and even a pass-through window in case I get hungry in the middle of the night and the cook is up.
Drive-through window.
Drive-through window, exactly. It's a swell boat. It really is. A modest draft of only 5 feet. That's still good for the Bahamas and certainly for the Chesapeake. I think this is a boat that will appeal to a lot of people. I think we better rate this boat right now while it's still fresh in all of our minds. I'd like to give this boat a 10 because she floats. I know she floats, and she's been floating for quite a while. Beyond that, the innovation factor on C&C's part is worth an additional 6. I'm going to give it another 4 points because of the care that the people who have owned this boat have taken care of it. What's your math? You're my math guy.
I'm gonna go. That sounds like 20.
20. Oh, did we get 20? Wow. I'll take the 20. I'll give it to you. 20 points. That is that's definitely a 20-pointer. She's a terrific boat and in such nice shape. Somebody's going to be very happy going very fast on their next cruise. If you like what you see, please hit the subscribe button. And if you want to be notified when the next one comes out, please hit the alert bell. And that's not desperate at all. We're having too good a time doing these things, so you can hit the bell or not. Randy, how would I ever find out what's coming up next?
You can follow us on Instagram here,
Yeah.
or Facebook here. We'll have little previews of what's coming up on our next episodes a little bit early.
That's pretty cool. Previews. You all join me. I'm going to Instagram right now, and I'm going to find out what's coming up next week. Thank you very much.
You know, Instagram's not a place.